Okay, so now we have our basic block in, just the beginning of everything, right? And I have the general arm position, and I'm still not totally sure about everything, but I feel like this is really not helping me, okay? So I want to start adding the hands. And so what you want to do, right, is you want to have a good amount of wire here so that you can wrap this around and if need be able to stretch it out or compress it in if you need to make the hand move up higher in the forearm or pull out. Okay, so there has to be a certain amount of flexibility so that as you're working with this, this hand armature does not become kind of like a mental impediment. Okay, you don't want to feel worried about it the whole time. So this is the mark for the right wrist that I have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut one part of the metal here. All right, so you see I've got two pieces. I'm going to mark this right where I see the wrist mark for the right hand, and I'm just going to, I'm going to cut this. So for some of you, you may not be comfortable with this, so you can actually just cut both at the same time, but I like to just do one at a time. That way, I'm just a little bit more sure of myself. Okay, and then some of you might not even have hands that are strong enough to cut through two layers, so you may just want to have this, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this part just a little bit longer than the mark that I had for the wrist. It's going to be enough that it's going to go through the hand, right? So this part is going to go a little bit through here. So it'll give it a little bit, the hand armature, a little bit more structure, okay? In case you need to do a directional shift. All right, and also, once again, in case you need to elongate this, you have a little bit more space here, just in case, okay? So now I'm going to look at the bottom of the hand, all right? And I want to be sure that, so what I'm seeing is that with my photo of Charles, you can see that his right hand, it's the index finger, which is descending more. Okay, you can see it more. There we go. You can see it's descending more than the other fingers. So I want to be sure that this right finger is definitely below this mark. So this is the bottom of the right hand. Okay, so I want to be sure that this is definitely below. Okay, so now I'm going to hold this here. And once again, if you want to mark this off, you can. So what I would do is I would mark the small armature as well as the thicker wire. That way you can have that aligned, okay? All right, so you can have it like this, all right? And now you see how I'm gonna do quite a lot of wrapping here, all right? So I'm gonna wrap quite a bit here because the more densely I wrap this, the more metal I have, the more length I have in the case I need to elongate this hand. So I'm going to just do it like this right here, right near the end. Okay, so you see how I'm placing this, there's quite a bit of thickness here, okay? So this thickness, I want to be sure that it's more in this area of the arm as opposed to right at the wrist, okay? Because once again, you don't want too much metal here because the wrist is always going to be a little bit small and thin. So now I'm going to place this here, and I'm just going to loosely let it coil right there, okay? So now, when I have my sculpture of Charles, okay, you see how You know, he looks kind of a little, almost like a scarecrow or like Edward Scissorhands or something, okay? So, so this way we can have a lot of flexibility. Now, if you ever have to shorten this, all right, most likely it just means you just cut the fingers, okay? You just cut the fingers shorter. But if you have to elongate this, you can actually pull this, you know, you probably have to take the clay off around here, but you can actually pull this down. Okay, like that, right? So this way, if you ever have to adjust anything, you've always got enough material here. And you know, if you don't have to worry about a rigid armature, the more ease you will have in terms of working with the sculpture. Okay, so you're gonna do that for both hands. So like I said, you're gonna cut around the wrist. Be sure you've got the gesture, right? Okay, and then see here, you can even start to bend. You can start to bend the fingers. So this will already get you on the way to really thinking about your completed sculpture. Okay, so you're gonna look at from the sides. Okay, gonna double check with this. Now you can see this is actually quite long, so we can pull this up more. Okay, you can either coil it up back while it's still uncovered, or like I said, you can actually cut the fingers. I always try to leave more on the ends here so that at the very end, you can just cut the fingers off. You can have clay marking out the bottoms of the fingers, right? And it's a form of notation. So you can say, oh, the fingers end here. You know, the fingers, I think they end around here. So as you work with the entire figure and you're trying to get all the proportions and the gesture to work just right, right? Before you get into details, this is the kind of clay notation that you can put onto the armature. You can also put pieces of clay where the joints are, all right, where the knuckles are. All right, and it's just a form of notation. If this is too much, you can just use a marker and you can just mark out the lengths as well, whatever works for you. But in general, this is just to help give you a little bit more of a sense of the full figure. Okay.